It was one of those nights when the quiet felt like a presence. The ticking clock on my wall was a steady rhythm, counting not just seconds, but the slow, patient beat of a heart learning to heal. I had spent the last 3 years in a house filled with echoes. I still slept on one side of a bed, too big for one person, and the faint, fading scent of her perfume on the pillow was a ghost I hadn't yet asked to leave. She was the woman who promised forever, but didn't stay long enough to mean it. That night, as I sat by the window watching the cold rain streak the glass, I wasn't just wondering how many more nights I could survive. I was starting to wonder if a new day would ever truly come. If you believe in the quiet power of kindness, the strength in forgiveness, and the beauty of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to the channel. What you're about to hear is a reminder that love often arrives not with a fanfare, but with a whisper, changing the landscape of our lives when we least expect it. I first met her 6 months ago. Her name was Maya, and she drifted into my life like a soft, persistent rain. I didn't notice her at first. She was just another volunteer at the local shelter where I spent my evenings, mending fences, fixing cages, trying to mend the unmendable parts of myself. She was different. She carried a quietness about her, and her eyes held stories I felt I already knew. It was clear she was acquainted with loss, perhaps even more intimately than I was. It began in small, gentle increments. She'd bring coffee for everyone, but she always handed me mine last, with a shy, almost smile that felt like a secret. Some days, she'd hum while she swept, and I'd find myself holding my breath, listening, trying to place the melody. Our conversations, once just polite greetings, slowly deepened. We spoke of dreams that had shifted shape and the quiet hope that somehow things could be beautiful again. She told me she was an artist who had put down her brushes after her fiancé passed away 2 years prior. I didn't press for details, I just listened. Sometimes that's the greatest gift you can give someone, a space for their pain to simply exist. One evening, a heavy rain began to fall. The shelter roof leaked, so I stayed late to patch it up. Maya stayed too, holding a flashlight steady while I worked. When the power flickered out, we sat together in the soft glow of her phone, sharing a sandwich in a comfortable silence. In that moment, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Not the emptiness of being alone, but the fullness of being understood. As we stepped out into the downpour later, she hesitated before running to her car. Raindrops traced silver lines down her face, catching the dim light. She turned and said, her voice barely a whisper over the rain, "You look like someone who is still holding on." My breath caught. She offered a faint, knowing smile and added, "So am I." Then she was gone, leaving me standing there, drenched and disarmed, feeling as if a door I thought was locked forever had just been nudged ajar. In the weeks that followed, she became a part of my world. A text message checking on the animals, an afternoon spent painting the shelter walls with soft blues and warm yellows. Life seemed to seep back into that place, and somehow into me, too. She painted a small mural on one wall, two hands reaching toward each other, not quite touching. She called it almost love. I didn't need to ask for an explanation. I felt it in my bones. Then, one night close to midnight, there was a soft but urgent knock at my door. I opened it to find Maya, drenched and shivering, a small bag clutched in her hand. Her eyes were red, rimmed, her voice fragile. "I can't go back there tonight," she whispered. I simply stepped aside. She came in and I handed her a towel. After a long silence, curled on my couch, she spoke of the rain, of the memory of the crash, the smell of smoke. Her voice broke completely. I didn't try to offer empty words. I just sat beside her, a silent anchor in her storm. Hours later, she looked at me, her eyes exhausted, and asked, "Is there space left in your bed?" The question hung in the air, delicate and profound. It wasn't about the physical space, it was an inquiry of the heart. I met her gaze and asked softly, "What if I said I wanted you to stay forever?" A startled look crossed her face, followed by a fragile, hopeful smile. That night, she curled up on one side of the bed, and I lay on the other. We didn't touch, but we weren't alone. We were two fractured souls listening to the rain, learning to believe in the possibility of wholeness. She started staying over more often. The house began to feel alive again, filled with the sound of her humming, the smell of her cooking, our shared laughter over small, silly things. I learned that healing isn't a straight path. Some days she was distant, lost in a memory. Other times, she'd need a few days alone. I learned to give her space, understanding that love isn't about completing someone, but about accompanying them as they find their way back to themselves. One evening at the shelter, she held a tiny, abandoned puppy, its paws trembling. As it nuzzled into her, she smiled. A real, full, unguarded smile. "You know," she said softly, "maybe broken things don't need to be fixed. Maybe they just need a safe place to land." I knew then she wasn't just talking about the puppy. Months later, our home was filled with her new paintings, sunsets, flowers, glimpses of hope. Each was signed with a small heart and the word, "Stay." Then, one evening, I came home to an empty house. For 3 days, a cold fear gripped me. I searched everywhere. On the 4th night, I found her by the river. She was holding a small box. I went to say goodbye. She said, her voice steady. She opened it to reveal her late fiancé's ring. She held it for a long, quiet moment before letting the current carry it away. She cried, but these were tears of release, not of chains. That night, back in our bedroom, she looked at me and asked, "Do you still mean it, about forever?" I looked at this woman, who had taught my heart how to feel at home again, and I said, "More with every passing day." The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming across her face, her hand resting gently on my chest. In that moment, everything was perfectly, peacefully right. We now run a small art cafe near the shelter. She paints, I brew coffee. On the main wall hangs her new mural, 2 hands, fingers gently interlaced. She titled it, "Forever Found." If this story reminded you that love can heal, and that broken souls can find their missing pieces in one another, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps spread these messages of hope. And before you go, I'd love to know, have you ever found a love that felt like coming home? Share your story in the comments below. You never know whose heart it might encourage to stay open, because the most beautiful love stories don't always begin with "I love you." Sometimes they start with a quiet question on a rainy night. Is there space left in your bed? And if you're blessed enough to be asked, may your answer always be, there is, if you promise to stay.